Let's get started. So welcome everybody to the PhD information session. As you know, this is the session to give you some information about the PhD program and to give you some idea what you would expect if you came here and how our program is set up, and also give you a little bit of a background about why we are in the situation that we're in right now. Excellent. So you're going to hear today from me. My name is Sebastian Zoellner. I'm a professor in the Biostatistics department. My main research is in statistical genetics. I'm here today because I'm the chair of the PhD admissions committee. Later on, you're going to hear from Matt Zawistowski, who's going to tell you about a really exciting new program that we have established, or that we are establishing, I should actually say, to make sure everybody who comes to Michigan can hit the ground running and doesn't stumble over some math skills that they had 2 years in the past, but that they're not up to date anymore. And finally, you're going to hear about the curriculum from Professor Kang. He's also a professor in biostatistics. So to give you a rough idea about what our admissions process looked like, last year we had 918 applications into our program. Of those, 533 were master's applications and 385 were PhD applications. We offered roughly 330 people admissions to the master's program, and 23 of those were awarded a tuition award, or 24 of those were awarded some kind of funding support. As of now, we only have 4 admissions to the PhD. I think you're all aware of things happening at the NIH that make it really, really difficult for us to predict how much money we have, right? If we admit somebody to the PhD, we admit them to either 3 or 5 years of guaranteed funding, which goes 5 years of guaranteed funding is about $500,000. We need to know that we have that money before we offer it to anybody, and that is right now where our uncertainty is happening, and that's unfortunately why you have this much uncertainty yourself. I'm really sorry for that. Normally we're having this conversation with people who are all admitted and who all have offers in hand. Under the present situations, this is unfortunately all we can do. Before we move on, we unfortunately have to switch the order a little bit because Matt will need to talk in both rooms. So I'm going to hand off to Matt here to talk about his part of
you gave it away,
making students ready.
You gave it away. That was the punchline. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Zoellner. So my name is Matt Zawistowski. So first thing I want to say is congratulations on being here to see the department today. I'm an alum of the department, so I take a lot of pride in being here. So you have stars in your eyes right now as you are getting closer to getting to graduate school, but inevitably it's going to turn to this, right? There's going to be this a little bit of hesitation, right, and uncertainty of like, am I really ready for this? And we have a lot of prerequisites. They're going to talk about those. So calculus, linear algebra, some statistics, some probability. There's a lot we expect you to know coming in, and there's a lot we expect you to be able to do, immediately in those classes, right? And so you'll wonder, am I ready for this? So a lot of feedback we've gotten from current students in the department say, hey, we wish that there was something we could have done in the summer before we matriculated to just confirm what we needed to know when we got there, right? So it's one thing for us to say, hey, you need to know calculus, but calculus is a huge subject, and really you don't need to know all of calculus, but you need to know certain parts of it really, really well. So that's the goal. We're piloting something called BioStart this fall. So that stands for the Biostatistics Self-Assessment Test and Refresher Training Program. And it's designed to let you know where you stand on the prerequisite material and show you exactly what you need to know for those first couple classes. So it's going to be an asynchronous course. It's going to be done through Canvas, which is our learning management system that we have here at U of M. We'll set it out, and think of this as like no stakes assessments, right? You've probably heard of low stakes. Well, this is no stakes, right? There's nothing tied to this. Really, our goal is just so that when you show up, you're prepared for Biostat 601, which is the theory class. Biostat 650, 601 is the theory class. 650 is the applied regression class. We want you to be ready. So what it'll look like is we'll have a self-assessment test that'll cover calculus, linear algebra, probability, and basic statistics. This is going to give you the chance to know what you don't know, okay? And so once you take this, I think it's probably about a 2-hour test, there'll be customized recommendations on what you should follow up on, right? So for example, here I'm showing, maybe you take the test and it says, hey, calculus and basic statistics, you're good. Hey, but we think linear algebra and probability, these are 2 places where you could use a little bit of work. We'll give you a set of learning objectives. We'll point you towards some review content, some practice problems, and give you the opportunity to then do a summative reassessment and make sure that these things are making sense and that you're ready to go in the fall. So I hope to see you all in the fall. And if you wind up coming and you do take part in this BioStart program, as I said, we're piloting it this fall. I would encourage you, take the self-assessment honestly. You could very easily take the test and run it through ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to get most of the answers right. That doesn't mean you would get most of the answers right. Okay? So take it to see what you know. It's going to be self-guided and self-paced review. So no matter what your summer plans are, you can figure out, how is this going to work for you to fit into your schedule. One of the most important things about learning math is you only learn it by doing it. So practice, practice, practice. And that's what this is mostly going to be. It's going to be practice problems that build from easy to more challenging to get you ready for what you'll see when you get here. We're going to try to incorporate some AI tools, so even a chat bot, so that if you have questions, you can immediately ask them and get feedback. And the most important thing I want to say is that this tool is going to be completely anonymous. No matter, if you take the self-assessment test and bomb it, nobody's going to know, okay? That's just for you. This is really a thing that's supposed to help you get prepared. It's not going to impact your standing in the program at all. So I do have to run over to the master's thing. I will say I'll be here. If you have questions about this program, just flag me down at any point, and otherwise I will see you then.
All right, okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. And my name is Jian Kang. I'm an associate chair for research in the department, and I'm also chair of the Candidacy committee. And it's my pleasure to introduce our PhD program to you. And so for our new PhD student, they have a very diverse background. They kind of like a major different from the biology, mathematics, statistics, and biochemistry. And I think they have all own unique strengths to contribute to the biostatistics, especially after 4 or 5 years PhD training. And our program designed from the several components like coursework and qualified exam and dissertation research. So for the first year, I worked first 2 years, then we have fundamental coursework you need to take. Especially you come to our program without a master degree. And we have the Biostatistics 601 and 602, which is probability theory and statistical inference. We have 650, 651, 653 consider the linear regression, generalized linear regression, and longitudinal data analysis method. And we have a capstone project course, Biostat 699, which is basically try to give you real data, a real problem from medical school, and analyze apply the method you learn from the previous courses and analyze the real data and write a report. So we have 4 or 5 projects in one semester, and the instructor will give you detailed feedback about your report and analysis results. And that's actually a very nice training for you to can apply your method to real data analysis. And also we contain several elective courses at 600 level or 800 level. And that's the first year or second year. And then after first year, if you are into the PhD program, we will actually require the additional coursework for PhD students, and include advanced calculus, which contain the real analysis, and biostatistics AO1 actually advanced probability theory, and AO2 is more advanced statistical inference method, and also we require 680 the stochastic processes. And we offer a wide range of 800 level elective courses like advanced survival analysis, advanced Bayesian analysis, and advanced genetics, statistics, and depends on your dissertation research interest. You can select those elective courses as preparation for your dissertation research. So typically, if you come to the program without a master degree, maybe at the end of second year, you can take the qualified exam. And the qualified exam actually basically cover the core course. And currently, we only test the fundamental knowledge, which cover the 601, 602, 650, and 651. So, and basically, this is a 6-hour exam in one day, and cover 6 questions. And it's a written exam, closed book, that we allow you have a 1 page of cheat sheet. And currently we have a policy that you have two attempts to take the exam. After that, I think you will, after you pass the qualified exam, you actually will have the kind of like well prepared for the dissertation research. And our dissertation research usually consists of 3 projects, and took about like 3 to 4 years to complete. And besides those coursework, we also offer this soft skill development like 611, 612, which actually talk about the professional successful skills. Besides all the technical skills, we're also trying to help you to understand what's the needs in the in the future after graduation, in the industry or in the academia. And we provide a variety of the kind of discussion on the career opportunities, and kind of try to make connection to the industry. We may invite the speaker from industry to talk about their needs about the as a biostatistician. And this is a very nice training course. So before you come, as Matt just talk about, we actually offer some help about your foundation mathematics to get well prepared for you to take 601, 602 if you come without a master degree. And if you come with master degree, I think you probably already have equivalent courses taken, and we have the curriculum committee will evaluate that you may potentially waive those courses. You don't have to take those courses. You are more ready to take the advanced level of AO1, AO2. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say. Maybe Sebastian, you can talk about more about the funding.
So, right, to talk a little bit about how our students typically get funded. If you get an offer from us, as I said before, it is an offer if you come in with a biostatistics master for 3 years of funding, because we think that's how long it should take you to get your degree. If you come in without a biostatistics master, it's typically 5 years of funding, because you will have to do the courses that Jian just described, and afterwards 3 years for your research. But funding, of course, does not mean you just get money and you get to do your studies, right? You will have to do some kind of, typically you will have to do some kind of job to basically earn that money and the tuition support. The jobs in our department are typically graduate student research assistant jobs, right? That means you work with a faculty who has research money, often from the NIH, sometimes from other sources, to work on a specific project, and you will help them work on that particular project. In practice, that can fall out 2 different ways. Some of us have research money to work on some theoretical problems, and then the project that you're working on with that faculty might be very well aligned with what your thesis research is anyway. That is nice because there's a lot of synergy, but of course that also means you don't learn anything else. It can also be that your research work, that your GSRA work is really, the doctor in the hospital needs to analyze this data to know whether treatment works. That is typically too applied to be really directly countable as a thesis project, but will get you A, practical experience with how working with real doctors looks like, and B, help you get additional publications. right? Because obviously when that doctor then publishes about his new methods, you as the key analyst are going to be in a highly ranked position on the paper, which will look good on your CV and help you move forward as well. So either one of these versions of GSRA positions have advantages and disadvantages. It's also important to emphasize you do not have to have your GSRA position with the person that's advising your thesis project, right? Your thesis project, you might be super excited about genetics and work with me on your thesis project, but Jian has a cool research project with somebody in the hospital that he just needs help on, and you're excellent because you're good in computing to help him analyze that data and run it through all the programs that he needs to run it through, right? That happens in our department quite frequently. And the benefit, again, disadvantage, a little bit of loss of synergy. Advantage, you get to learn from two outstanding, or at least one outstanding scientist, which is Jian in the process, and me as well. This way you have a broader sense of experiences. So there's no good and bad here, it's just different. We also have students that we fund as graduate student instructors. That is typically not a long-term solution, particularly for PhD students. Often when you're coming in, particularly not with a master's, you might not quite be ready to work as a research assistant, right? So we have you help us with a course for a semester or two while you do the basic stuff, and then you start working as a research assistant, right? Many people go through our program without ever doing any teaching at all. We have a couple of fellowships, mostly through our training programs, the Genome Science Training Program and the Cancer Training Program. Those typically cover 2 years of funding with typically less additional work requirement, but often they require you to do more coursework. For example, the Genome Science Training Program requires you to do a pretty robust coursework in actual genetics. The goal of that training program is to develop scientists who can work in statistical genetics, which means you need to know more about genetics than is part of our normal training routine for biostatistics students. We also have tuition awards, but they are mostly for master students, so I'm not going to talk about them here. Wrong button. Yeah, there we go. I think I said most of this already. One thing that is important. Our system is set up such that we offer you funding even with the expectation that we will be able to get that funding from across our very large faculty. There is not one specific professor who will offer you funding right away, and only if that professor has funding will you get your money. That has the advantage for you that you can be really, really certain you get your money, right? Because the entire department of almost 50 faculty's ability to generate money stands behind it. The downside is you cannot go to professors and ask them for funding, right? The funding is organized centrally because that's the only way we can sort of pull together funding from everybody. So if there's any question about funding, your first person to talk to should be Nicole. Second person to talk to should always be me because chair of the admissions committee helps organize that, right? If you go directly to faculty and ask them about whether they can give you a research position, that will only make things complicated. So please don't. Nonetheless, when you come, you will not be randomly assigned to people, right? You will, if you come, we will ask you, who would you like to work with? And at the same time, we go to all the faculty who have money and say, who would you like to work with? And then we're going to try to match this as much as possible so that you get the person to work with that you want, and they get the person they want to work with. So it's not like we randomly assign you to anybody. We try to make this work as much as possible. Also, it happens quite frequently, actually, that during your years here, you realize this is a nice person, I get my work done, but our style doesn't quite gel. And so you move to a different funding source. You just say, can we potentially find a different funding source for that? And we can all make this happen, right? I don't want to give you the impression that there's a big machinery and you're assigned to wherever fits best for us without looking at your needs. Yes?
So, if I'm understanding correctly, if the funding is central, then if we don't care with the faculty member and we want to work with them, and then because of government costs, they use some funding, they're not able to work with us any longer, we have to
So working with means two different things, and I was about to get there. Thank you for being the nice transition, right? You are working with somebody as part of your GSRA to earn your support. That is not your thesis work. You will pick a faculty, and as long as you and that faculty agreed that he should be a thesis advisor, and you want to work on research that they are interested in and they can help you with, then that will be your thesis advisor, and that will be your thesis. And your thesis work will not be affected by any funding at all. As I said before, there's a little bit of synergy if that person also is the person who funds you. But synergy is not everything, right? So if you're funding, if the one person loses funding that funds you, then you will be put on a different funding slot. Your thesis advisor and your thesis work will be unaffected by that. Does that make sense? Cool. Any more questions on that? So really the easiest way to think about it is there is a job you have to support your funding, and then there's your thesis work. And they may overlap, they may not. Either way, you will be able to be supported until you've finished your thesis. Right? You will be able to not have to worry about finding funding for the years that we promise you. Okay. In this context, I want to say that getting the PhD here is a pretty cool starting step for almost any career. Honestly, I've been here for almost 20 years. I don't remember anybody who had a hard time finding a job that they liked after leaving here. This is a very reputable department. I think Vera put up the fact that we're number 4 in the US right now. I think the complete answer is there are 5 top biostatistics departments, and the order of those departments changes from year to year, and sometimes we're number 1, sometimes we're number 3, sometimes we're number 4, but everybody understands there are 5 top biostatistics departments in the country, and this is one of them. So if you come from here, you will have gone to one of the best biostatistics departments in the country. As of such, our students go to any place where large data analysis, particularly with focus on biomedical data, is necessary. An important thing to emphasize is a PhD is a specific skill set that you're getting that is independent of the exact research that you're doing. One example that I like to pull out a lot is a former student of mine who did her PhD with me on population genetic questions, who in her last year decided she wanted to go to the FDA. So she spent a couple of months catching up on drug development statistics, and she took her PhD to the FDA. The fact that she knows a little bit more genetics than her typical colleague is still useful because genetics is an important aspect of drug development, but fundamentally she switched directions pretty much as far as you can go in our department right at the end of her PhD, and it was no problem whatsoever. Because fundamentally the PhD skill, the skills you get in a PhD are super highly transferable to any other statistical question. And the technical aspects you can catch up on in less than a year. Right? So that's important thing also to remember. There's not much else here to say. As you've seen the slide once already. Our graduates go, if they go into industry, they go all over the country. If you go to any major biostatistics department in the country, you will find on the faculty alums of our department. So a lot of our faculty, a lot of our students take on faculty positions later. A lot of them go into industry, as you can see, pretty much all over the country, both into biomedical research. Some of the more extreme examples aren't even on there. For example, I have two former students who are in consulting companies right now. Do not do statistics, do not do anything, they just do company consulting. Training of a PhD is still useful for that because it's still trying to, how do I generate useful information? Right? Sort of how does this all come together? And this is unfortunately the insane times timeline. This does not really apply to this year, right? Typically, December 1st, you had your application in. By mid-February, we would have normally known, and that's not true. By mid-February, we knew who we really wanted to come here. Just we didn't know how to, whether or not and how we can fund them. We absolutely know. If you got an invitation from us to be here, we would love to have you here. You are absolutely awesome. Doesn't mean that the money falls from heaven to pay for you, unfortunately. Nonetheless, this is the Admitted Student Day, so we're trying to tell you all the things that hopefully help you make your decision. Traditionally, April 15th is the deadline. That means before April 15th, no university can force you to make a decision. If a university says, hey, we would like to know tomorrow, and if you don't, your offer goes away, they are cheating. Right? That is, by the agreements across all universities in the US and Canada, not okay. What this means this year, I have no idea. Right? We're hoping that we can still have offers out to all of you well before that deadline. But that in 5 cents buys you a cup of coffee, right? So I'm reasonably optimistic we will have offers out to you before that. If for whatever reason our offers come very close to this deadline, then we will obviously give you 2 weeks or something to decide, right? It's not going to be, if we offer you on the 10th of April, you have to decide by the 15th or the offer goes away. I hope it happens sooner. I am not super excited. I'm reasonably optimistic it happens before then, but I can't promise anything. As soon as we know that you're coming, we will try to figure out how to match you with advisors, with GSRA advisors, right? So we'll ask you shortly thereafter to fill out a form. Who would you like to work with as your GSRA advisor? Why are you interested in them? And we try to match them with the people who have GSRA positions so that before you come, you already know what you're doing. In May to August, student funding and matches are finalized, and then late August, you're coming, student orientation happens, and you'll hopefully go ahead and be very successful PhD students. Yes, go ahead.
So I don't know if there's a discussion a lot of other universities, but because the April deadline is kind of consistent, is it a hard deadline? Do you know?
It is, realistically, the rules don't, it's the deadline in the sense of, right, you can decide whenever you want. Universities have the right to tell you, or used to have the right, if you don't decide by April 15th, the offer might go away. If you get an offer way before that, you probably want to decide before that deadline, right? I think what's going to happen, both with us and with other places, we're going to be much more careful in how many offers we make. So traditionally, we do a little bit the airplane model, right? Where the airline company knows not everybody shows up, so they sell a few more seats than they're actually on the airplane. We do this. Traditionally, we do the same thing with PhD admissions. We offer more people admissions to the PhD program than we have money, because we know many of them have offers from all the other. I'm assuming most of you are sitting here. There are many other programs in the country who are also excited about you, and you have many choices, right? So not all of you would come here. This year we have no idea how that math plays out. So this year we might be a little bit more careful in admitting fewer people, which then says, if you don't come, please let us know, because we would like to offer the position to somebody else. Right. So I'm very hard pressed to give you as you might notice, I'm waffling a lot. I cannot give you a really good answer because this is unprecedented. I've done this for almost 20 years. I have practically no experiences to fall back on to give you an answer. This is how we've done it in the past, because it was never like this. We'll try to give you enough time. We'll try to get as many students to be able to come as possible. And those two things are a little bit at a conflict with each other, and we'll try to make it all work. Right? Assume we have your best interest in mind, but there are other people's interests as well. One thing that's not on the slides, if you have a GSRA position, it is often, or Genome Science Training Program position, it is often possible that you come a month early, that you get funded for example, coming in August, that has the benefit that if you have any research activity, you can get started because without worrying about classes. Right? Normally everything comes all at once. First day of classes, first day of research, all of these things all at the same time, and that's a big jump. If that works with your summer plans and you're so inclined and you have a GSRA position, it's absolutely worthwhile to figure out, hey, can I come a month early to settle in, to get started, to move, to get going before I need to worry about all the other things. Okay, other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So if due to like the funding cuts, not all of the students that are on the wait list are able to be admitted, then I'm curious, like, how are the students that are selected off the wait list for admission? Like, how is that determination?
So first thing is we have a ranking on that waiting list. And we don't want to tell you because it's a ranking based on really small epsilon and really whether you rank 5 or rank, if you're on the wait list, you're awesome. And the ranking is really based on really small things and maybe personal opinions of people on the committee. So, right. We don't want to tell you exactly where you're on the rank list because it's not useful information. I don't want to make you feel anything about it. So we're certainly going to go down that list, right? We have specific funding sources, like, for example, the Genome Science Training Program. If we have that money, we can only give it to people who actually want to do genetics, right? So that will also play a role a little bit. But these are really the two criterions we're having here. Again, unprecedented situation, so this is a little bit also my off-the-cuff answer. I'm not betting my firstborn that my answer wouldn't change in a week. Go ahead.
Sorry, I said a quick follow-up question on that. So is it possible for students who are not selected off the wait list to like still come but like without funding, or is like full funding required?
The University of Michigan has the strict rule that PhD students have to be funded.
Okay, thank you.
We cannot offer unfunded. What can happen so far, and just for total transparency, our department has always been very generous in even if the guaranteed funding runs out, we continue funding you. We are allowed to stop that, and we may try to figure out if there's a little bit wiggle room there in the future. So in the past, I would have told you those 5 years are on paper, but as long as you make good progress, 6 years almost never a problem, and after that it might get a little bit dicey. That might not be quite as true in the future. But that's really the only thing where we have any wiggle room at all from the university. The guaranteed funding we have to give you, and we will give you. And honestly, it would be a very different. It would be really difficult to imagine doing it otherwise. Because it's really hard work to do a PhD student and doing that for that long without money, right? One of the things, if you are going to come into a PhD program and you have master's colleagues who move on into industry, they will, 2 days after you start, they will make twice as much money as you. And they will make twice as much money for a couple of years. So making no money is not great. I wouldn't like it, but that's my personal opinion on top of very strict university policies. So. Other questions? One thing I like to tell students, there are no stupid questions. If you can phrase a question, that means you're ahead of a couple of other people in the room who are unclear about the same thing, but are not clear enough how they are unclear about it, so they can phrase the question yet. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I have another
No.
Will the opportunity to pursue a master's in biostats be available to students that are not selected off the waitlist for the PhD program?
Yes. I'm not sure how exactly we would manage that, but if you're interested in doing an unfunded master's, absolutely. You probably want to make sure Nicole has your name, if that's something you know you're really excited about, so that we can put you all the way to the... We would get to you eventually anyway, but if you're saying, I know I want this, I'm super excited about this, then this would be good for us to know. So if Nicole knows about that, or the Master's Admissions Committee, that would be good to know, right? I mean, we would love to have you here, no matter how. We think you're awesome. If you're coming for a Master's that would make would not make my day because I'd much rather pay you, but go ahead.
So, just based off the news of Columbia and John Hopkins, big funding cuts of $500 million, do you anticipate the same thing happening here?
I'm not a soothsayer, but that is certainly one of the reasons that I'm waffling so much here, right? The way I read the situation is that a lot of these funding cuts are actually more attempts at affecting the university policy than actually cutting the funding. I have no idea what would happen here, and I have no idea how amendable our leadership would be to being forced to change our typically pretty deep-held beliefs for funding or not. I don't know. Any other questions? You can think, if the question only slowly percolates in your mind and it comes in 20 minutes, I'll be around. You just find me and ask me something. Most of the other faculty are probably going to know the answers too, but if it's very specific to PhD admission, then I would probably be minimally more knowledgeable than everybody else. Yes?
Sorry, one more question.
Oh, as many as you have.
I'm not sure if you had already addressed this, but do you know like what percentage of students off the waitlist to the PhD program do you anticipate getting admitted?
I don't want to give you an answer on that. I have some hope that I don't know. I'd have to go back and figure out exactly. I maybe find me afterwards and I get a little bit more information. Maybe I can tell you something, but I need to figure out exactly which waitlist we're talking about because there's more than one, and I don't know.
No worries.
No, I am worried, but that's not your fault. No, it's not. But as I said, I'm not happy with the situation. But it's obviously, you're the least at fault for that. Go ahead.
Do you anticipate a lot of students reapplying?
Next year?
Yeah, I don't think the situation's going to change because it's the same administration, but
For everybody in this room, I would love to see your application again next year if for whatever reason we can get you. I've said it multiple times, you're awesome, so your application is always super welcome. The rest of the answer is that I don't know. I'm hoping that people get stuff out of their system and we have at least something where we can predict what will happen next year, right? Maybe at a lower level, but at least it's not one day this, next day that, right? Maybe we're just next year at a level where things are bad, but they're predictably bad. Then at least we can, but then we don't have to go through this craziness of, well, we would all love to have you, and in a normal year we would, but blah, 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 right? So that is my hope for next year. Yes?
Change the topic a little. It's getting
Oh.
a little depressing, but I think
Yep.
you mentioned like if you enter as MS student, you would get money for 3 years because you would like essentially skip the first 2 years
Yep.
of coursework. So is that a mandatory thing? As like if someone has entered with MS like some time ago and they after the Biostart assessment, for example, they feel like they might need some refresher. How would that?
So the offer letter is going to say 3 years because we're going to go by your training and we're going to assume that you have the necessary material. Also, the refresher that you're looking at, if you have an MS, I think you will easily pass the probability and the methods. Your linear algebra, or more likely your calculus, might be a little bit behind. That is stuff you can catch up on relatively quickly without needing to go through all of 601, 602, and 650, right, to all of our core courses again, right? Just catching up on the math, right? That will be fundamentally be taking real analysis, right? If you take real analysis without catching up beforehand, it's going to be really, really rough, but, right, you know what I'm saying, right? So the math skills and what you learn now, what you actually, right, this is really the prerequisite. This is the starting point. What you learn in our program is what builds on top of that, and if you have an MS, you should have most of that. That doesn't mean that you might not spot, right, if you're saying, for example, my probability is really weak, all the other stuff I have, you can take even with a 3-year admissions. Right? Typically with the 3-year admissions, your first year is still coursework. If you pepper in one basic course that you feel you're really bad at, right, that will typically work out. So I don't know, if, maybe I should have said that a little bit clearer. Typically, our program is the first 2 years, if you're coming in with an undergraduate degree, the first 2 years are equivalent to the master's program. The only thing that happens, you take, and you can take the first 2 years simply as a master's program. What we advise you to do, because you want to get done eventually, is that you pull forward a couple of PhD level courses into those 2 years, like 801, 802, so that you have all your coursework done after 3 years very easily, potentially even after 2.5 years. Once your coursework is done, you're a candidate, regardless of what the qualifying exam says. Qualifying exam, you can typically, if you're doing the 5 years here, because it's only based on the master's program, you can typically take after 2 years. If you're coming in with a master's from elsewhere, you will typically take it after 1 year, because we basically assume you need 1 year to sort of catch up on how we do things and what we emphasize. Yeah. So I'm not sure of that. Even if you're a candidate, you can still take 1 course per semester without having to pay for it or anything, right? Candidacy fundamentally means is you're not taking courses anymore, so your tuition is massively reduced. In practice, you can take 1 course per semester, but pretty much you're supposed to be more or less done with coursework, and you're just working on your thesis work. Yes?
Do students have the opportunity to like test out of courses, or like if they've already taken
Test out of courses or just talk with. So Phil Boonstra is here. I think he's in the master's room right now because that's more a problem for the master's program. He will be here at lunch. He's super nice. He will manage all the every year. A lot of students come in and say, "I've done this, I've done that, I've done that," and he will look at you. Will it's not so much testing, but you will bring the curriculum for that. But not the curriculum. What's it called? Sorry. Syllabus, thank you. Exactly. The syllabus for the course, so he can say how much is that aligned with what you would be learning in our course, and if that syllabus only takes you halfway through 601, then you have to take 601 because the other half is important. If the syllabus is exactly the same as what we did in 601, then he might say, okay, you got an A in that course, and it covers the same material. Why would we want you to take that again? Right, and really the fundamental thing is, right, we want to build skills. This is not about checking boxes.